Networks and media outlets all around the country scramble to bring the legal experts to explain the Supreme Court ruling. We have the best, hands down. Scott Sherman is KTRS legal analyst. Good morning, Scott Sherman.
Thank you, sir.
I guess more of this talk on Martin Kilcoyne later today, or are you not on Martin today?
I'm Carney today.
You're Carney today.
1 to 3.
1 to 3.
Back
Were you okay? So quickly. You come in here at 9 o'clock and say it was a 5-4 decision upholding the Affordable Care Act. Then now it's 6-3. What happened?
Well, the initial blogger that was sitting in the room put 5-4.
Okay.
So they were wrong, and then 5 minutes later they were right. But
okay.
That was before the opinion was even released. And then I clicked on their Supreme Court website, and there were 6 names.
Okay. So who were the 6 who upheld the Affordable Care Act?
All right. You've got Kagan, Sotomayor, Breyer, and Ginsburg. No surprise, those 4 are
right.
in. Then you've got Justice Kennedy, who's usually the swing vote on the close ones, and the person who writes the opinion, the Chief Justice of the United States, John Roberts, the same person who 5-4 in 2012 upheld the mandate which established Obamacare.
This is, okay, so for those who don't follow this as closely, the argument is basically a typo in the original language.
It's when they write these things, somebody puts this to paper, and the senators and the Congress, they don't read this stuff.
Right.
I guess sometimes their staff does, but they vote on this stuff, and within it, the devil's in the details, but there's also mistakes in the details. Things are ambiguous. Things are confusing. Definitions gloss over the I's, and the language, which is important, often causes a big problem. And in this particular case, this was not about the mandate. This was not about forcing somebody to buy or have insurance, or else you get penalized.
Right.
This was whether or not, if you are a member of the Obamacare exchange, whether or not everybody can get a tax credit. And they set it up like this. Okay, states, you can set up your own state exchange, like Massachusetts had
right.
under Mitt Romney.
Right.
So about 1/3 of the states decided to do that.
Do it on their own.
Do it on their own.
Missouri
did not.
Missouri accepts the federal exchange. So you go on the federal exchange to get your insurance.
There's a fallback provision. There's sort of a safety net for the whole system, and that is, okay, if the states opt out, and 2/3 of them opted out, including Virginia, which was the state at issue here, those states that don't set up an exchange, the feds will come in and they'll set up an exchange.
Right.
So you can get it through the state.
And the feds would then subsidize your insurance like you would if it was a state exchange, but you would just buy that on the feds exchange, the feds sort of website, as opposed to the state's website.
Whether or not you got it from your state that was a member of the exchange or the default Fed exchange, every member of an exchange could get a tax credit.
And the law said, or the argument was, it was a typo, or it was an and versus an or a plus and a minus. But the argument said, the argument against it for striking it down was, if it's a federal exchange, you are not allowed the federal subsidies.
If it's a federal exchange, you don't get a tax credit.
Right.
That was it. So you're not entitled to the tax credit.
Which means you can't. Chances are you can't afford it.
That's right.
So therefore, they're talking 400,000 people, 350,000 people in the state of Missouri would be without the subsidy. So they would basically lose the insurance. The Supreme Court says...
Well, not just that. You're talking about 34 states that didn't have that. It would implode the entirety of the system because the system relies on participation by so many people in the United States that without the vast numbers that they had, like if 2/3 of the people weren't in it, say goodbye to Obamacare.
Okay, so Scalia, Thomas, and Alito all voted to take it away. The 6 voted for it. Justice Roberts writes the opinion to uphold the Obamacare subsidy. Why?
Big word. This is the word of this case. Context. The question was whether or not the words here you get a tax credit under an exchange meant only an state exchange and you don't get it if it's a federal exchange, or in the context does it under an exchange mean all of the exchanges. And the way that they looked at the statutory language, they said, okay, is this ambiguous or not? And even if it is, we're not going to leave this smart guy stuff up to the IRS. We are going to interpret what Congress meant here. And by looking at it, they had all the people that were eligible. Unless you're an illegal alien, everybody was eligible to come into the pool. Everybody could jump in and swim around. On this side of the pool, that's the state exchange. On this side of the pool, it's the federal exchange. But everybody has to play by the same rules in the pool. And so they said is, okay, the tax credit language in this 36B part of it isn't very good, but everybody in the pool has to play by the same rules. Everybody gets the opportunity to buy discount hot dogs when they get out of the pool. So they interpreted this in the context with which Congress passed Obamacare and said, the language ain't good, but it's not bad enough, and it's not clearly bad enough to make the people that are federal exchangers exempt or unable to get a tax credit.
Okay. Alito, Scalia, and Thomas, who wrote the dissent?
Justice Scalia said, and not surprisingly so, the words mean what they mean. It said under a state exchange. That means only under a state exchange. Congress can, if they wanted to, could go back and fix it. They're right across the street. They don't know what they're doing, and the other two signed on to it. But the surprise here, for me, is Justice Kennedy coming over. I mean, 6-3, it was a washout. But Justice Kennedy, who during the questioning was really having a hard time trying to figure out why, if Congress is right across the street, and why, if this was the biggest issue of the president's first term, why didn't Congress have the sense to figure this out? Why are we trying to fix Congress's work? Chief Justice Roberts, I mean, this is the guy that twisted the mandate from a question about the Commerce Clause and the power of the Congress to grab people and force them to buy something into a tax.
Right.
So it's almost his legacy to save this. But what you're seeing here is the flexibility of the swing votes. It's not just Ask Justice Kennedy anymore, which the court often is on 5-4s. It's also Ask Chief Justice Roberts on flexibility in the way that government operates and the way that things are determined when the stakes are high, like the entirety of this Obamacare law.
A lot of people think, Supreme Court, who cares? It doesn't affect me. If this would have gone the other way, 300 some odd people would have been without the federal subsidy, which in turn they would have lost their federal insurance, which means they still get sick. They would still go to the hospital. They would still be treated. And all of that federal subsidy that was paying for them is now on our backs and our insurance policies. This affected everybody today.
You ever play that game Chutes and Ladders? Where
Yes, I
you're
did.
almost at the end of the thing and you hit that one and you slide all the way back?
Yes.
That's what would have happened if it had gone the other way. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're pro-Obama, but when Chief Justice Roberts, and the rest of the liberals on the court created Obamacare or upheld Obamacare in 2012. They asked everybody to come swim in the pool, jump in the pool. If they were to drain the water out of the pool with this case, what would have been the point of all of what's gone on the last 3 years?
Let's talk about Justice Roberts for a moment. He's a Supreme Court justice. He is a Catholic. He was a conservative's conservative. He was almost unanimously loved by the right and has stuck his finger in the right on their signature hatred of President Obama, now not once, but twice.
Not only that, we're still waiting for the same-sex marriage case. Who knows if he'll be on it? I think what I admire, or am coming to admire the most about Chief Justice Roberts, is what I admire the most about Justice Kennedy and about Justice O'Connor before him, and that is independence. That you're not sending somebody up there that's just in lockstep with a particular philosophical position or a particular party's position. This guy has created unanimity to the point where last term there were more unanimous decisions than any time before 1954. And he's unpredictable, not in sort of a wild-eyed, crazy way, but in a way that it's kind of refreshing. He has gone from a lackey, which is what people say about someone that agrees with some people they disagree with all the time,
right,
to a man of, I guess, great character, which is somebody that is unpredictable and sometimes enraging.
More on this 1 to 3 here on the Big 550 KTRS.
1 to 3, and we still have, it won't come down today, but one of the biggest cases of the last 20 years, the same-sex marriage case.
If
either
not tomorrow or Monday.
Monday.
So by tomorrow at 9 o'clock or Monday by 9 o'clock, same-sex marriage might be legal in the state of Missouri.
And everywhere. And the thing about Roberts, he's the one creating the drama, because since he's taken over, these days, these last few days of the court have been the best and most interesting cases.
That's really
he's
interesting.
brought people that could care less about the court and thought it was all boring in to talk about issues. I think that's made it great.
How about this? President Obama voted against Justice Roberts' confirmation to the Supreme Court.
And Justice Roberts screwed up his oath of office terribly in the first
They
term.
had to do it again. I mean,
That's what a book
that is
between
drama. The man votes against his nomination and then becomes president, and twice now upholds his signature law. That is just...
It's better than the new season of True Detective.
That
I'll
is
tell you
high
that.
drama. Scott Sherman, the best in the business, our KTRS legal analyst. Thanks, and we'll listen to more 1 o'clock here on the Big
Thanks for
550
letting me